I've covered almost every possible line for the Czechoslovakian tech tree inside of World of Tanks, but the only ones I am yet to cover are a wheeled light tank line and a heavy tank line. Today, of course, I'll be covering the heavy tank line. These tanks in the high tiers are Czech-made tanks with German filler vehicles at tier 6 and 7, but these vehicles have a twist. All of these tanks are very unique in their own gameplay. Anyways, before I get into this video, I just want to say 67% of you guys watching are not subscribed to the channel. So, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this across a wide variety of games, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm trying to aim for 2,500 subscribers by the end of the year, and every little helps. Anyways, let's get right into it. Tier 3 is the Atypicky Tatra. This tank replaces the Tatra, which was moved to the light tank line that I recently covered, and you can find more about it by clicking this video here. In 1936, Tatra began work on a conceptually new medium tank, while Skoda and CKD were working on their own light tanks that went into production, the P2A and the S2A, which were also planned to be used in export to countries like Hungary, Romania and Yugoslavia. Tatra engineers proposed the Atypicky. This new tank is absolutely absurd. With two turrets on top of each other, this would be a nightmare to play inside of World of Tanks. I do think if this were to come into the game, I think the top mini turret should be sliced off of the tank, as that is such an obvious weak spot for the vehicle and is absolutely pointless. However, that would defeat the purpose of this sticking to its true identity. Maybe it can be removed with a turret upgrade for the vehicle. Let's get into tier 6. Tier 6 is the Tygr S. The Tygr S, during World War II, Skoda developed a project that would be modifying the Tygr 1. This project was actually quite interesting. They would change the turret so that it was stock turret of the Tygr, or they would alter the actual top turret of the Tygr to make it more accommodating for an auto-loading gun, replacing the 88mm gun with a 75mm Czechoslovakian designed auto-loading gun. This would further fit the auto-loading nature of the Czech high-tier medium tanks, the tier 9 and the 10. The tank's hull and turret armour would be the same, being 100mm on the front, 80 on the sides and the rears. The tank's top speed will be 40 km/h as well, making it quite a fast tank. But that's not where the fun ends. The tank has two gun options, the 76mm A18 and the 75mm A18B. The 76mm would have 132mm of penetration on rounds that do 110 HP of damage with a clip size of 5. The 75mm would have 164mm of penetration on rounds that do 150 HP of damage in a clip size of 3. This would be one of the funnest heavy tanks to play in tier 6. Like the French high tier heavy tanks, but these would have armour, and the rest of the line follows this rule as well. However, what's characteristic with these tanks is that they never left the drawing phases, so take that information as you will. Tier 7 is the Tygr P. As Skoda had a plan to develop the Tygr S to be an auto-loading tank, they also had the same plan for the Tygr P, changing the internal layout of the turret and installing an auto-loading mechanism to the tank. The 88mm gun will be replaced with a 105mm auto-loading Czechoslovakian gun. The tank's hull armour will be 200mm on the front, 80 on the side and 80 on the rear. And the turret armour would be 100mm on the front, 80 on the side and 80mm on the rear. The tank's top speed will be 35 km/h. With its pretty good hull armour and okay top speed, this tank also has two pretty decent gun options, the 75mm A18B and the 105mm L40.5 Skoda. The 75mm A18B is the same as the top gun on the Tygr S, but has a clip size of 4. The 105mm, however, is something different. This gun will have 175mm of penetration on rounds that do upwards of 300 damage. The clip potential is 600 damage, as this clip will have 2 shells in it, which as far as tier 7 heavy tanks go, that is really good. In October of 1955, the CIA received information about 6 prototypes of a heavy tank being transported in a freight train near the city of Opava. The tanks were similar looking to the T-34-85, but they were heavier and they had a rear mounted turret. The turret was rounded and had a low profile. The vehicle that we know is the Tatra T-32. The vehicles were armed with a 122mm and 155mm gun. However, I have no clue if this story is 100% truth. It's the first time I and many other people have heard of these vehicles, but let's go with it, I guess. The tanks will be similar to the Russian rear turreted ISM tank, but of course it would have an autoloader instead. The tank's hull armor would be 130mm on the front, 100 on the side and 70mm on the rear of the hull, and the turret will be 250 on the front, 130 on the side and 180 on the rear of the turret, making this really good for hull down gameplay. The tank's top speed is around 40 km/h, making it faster than the vehicles before. The stock gun is the same as the top gun of the Tier 7, but its clip size is 3 rather than 2. The other gun is the 122mm R13, and this would have 215mm of penetration on shells that have 390 HP of damage with a clip size of 2, meaning with a combined clip potential of around 780 HP of damage, which is absolutely crazy. Coming in at tier 9 is the Tatra T-33. According to the CIA, yet again, Skoda and Tatra companies in Pilsen spent months developing a heavy tank project with a 140mm main gun and a small turret armed with a machine gun. Of course, the tank I'm talking about is the tier 9 in this tech tree, the Tatra T-33, but the fate of these vehicles are unknown. Yet again, this would play like the Russian tier 9 rear turreted heavy tank, but it would have an autoloader. The tank's hull armor is 150mm on the front, 100 on the side and 70 on the rear, with turret armor being 250 on the front, 120 on the side and 80mm on the rear, making it great for hull down side scraping. The top speed is around 35 km/h, which makes it quite slow and slower than the tier 8 in the tech tree. However, the tank does shine with its gun. The stock gun, the 122mm R13, is the top gun of the tier 8, but its clip size is 3 rather than 2. However, the top gun, the 140mm Visor 1960 L50, will do 510 HP of damage on shells with 214mm of penetration with a clip size of 2. This would make the tank do 1020 HP of damage in a clip, which is incredible. But nothing is as incredible as the tank that is at tier 10. The Tatra T-34 is the top of the Czech's 1950s heavy tank development and is the final tank in this whole line. And that's for good reason. The final tank for this project is still an incredible vehicle, marking the end of the Czech heavy tanks proposed for World of Tanks. This tank will be crazy, with 220mm of frontal armor and 100mm on the sides and 70 on the rear. The turret armor would be even better, 300mm on the front, 150 on the sides and 100 on the rear. The top speed is better than the tier 9s, being 45 km/h as well. But it doesn't even stop there. This tank has a really good top gun, a 152mm Skoda J2 gun, which would have a clip size of 2, with shells which do 670 HP of damage with 265mm of penetration, bringing the tank's potential damage to 1340 HP is enough to clip a tier 8 tank and take half the health of any tier 10 tank in the game. This surely will be an incredible tech tree in the game, and I think it will breathe some new life into the one-line Czechoslovakian tech tree. What do you guys think about this tech tree? Feel free to let me know. I'd love to know what you guys think. Of course, that marks the end of the video. What do you guys think of this tech tree, and what do you think about the Czechoslovakian tech tree? If you want to see the light tank line that I covered, and the tank destroyer line, and the artillery line, I'll link them all in the description below, and one of them will be in the outro card. Probably the light tank line. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more videos like this, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day.